This video that you are watching is really special to me. It's about where do you go to connect with yourself? Where do you go to be yourself, to feel recognized and understood? I'll tell you a little bit about my story. I'm transgender. For decades I had a woman's name and I had a body that looked like a woman, and people thought I was a woman, but I was a man, a really comfortable, kind of average, boring man. And and no one could ever see me, and there were a lot of expectations, about what I liked and what I was gonna do in my future, maybe get married to a man and give birth to children and all these things, and I didn't want any of those things. I didn't want to dress in women's clothing, and that stood out. It made me different, and it made me really uncomfortable to always be different and to have this constant stress. So what I did to be myself, to connect with myself, is I would leave, go into the woods, into the mountains, into the desert. I would go places where no one could tell me what to do or who to be. I would be by myself and with myself, and I would see and feel myself. And right now I live out in the middle of nowhere. But recently, I went to the city. And I met with other transgender people who lived in the city. And what they did is very different from me. You see, we all make a choice. We all make a choice later in life about where we want to live, where we want to go. And that doesn't necessarily mean where you live physically. Sometimes it means like what you do with your time and with your mind, what you do to reconnect with yourself, recharge. And so this whole topic is interesting to me because there are transgender people all around the world, and they have to, at times, they just have to see who they are and how they feel. But where do you go if you can't transition? If you can't tell anyone you're transgender because it's not real in the country that you live in? Or, how do you cope and survive when there are so many traditional expectations on you about where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do, and there is no resources, help, no hormone transition, nothing like that. Your family and parents won't understand. So I wonder, and I want you to comment, where do you go to be yourself? Like, how do you do it? Because if you're watching these videos, part of you is different, and you might be transgender. So how do you connect with that part of yourself? How do you deal with it? And so I'm very lucky to live in the United States because I can be this way and transition, and that's what I did. I used hormones to transition, and now I live in a place that's rural, which means out in the country, away from the city. I live in a place where there's conservative politics and also these traditional expectations, and here I am. I've chosen to be here, who knows why, but I really like it and I connect with it and I can be myself. People don't think about like this woman that I was, because they don't know about that, and they just see me as this man. Unlike in the past, the expectations they have on me resonate with what I want and my identity and who I am. Like, people think I like girls. Well, they're right, and it's refreshing. And it really supports this heteronormative way, and there are things where I definitely stand up against too many expectations and all this, and I understand also that I am keeping a part of me hidden, the transgender part, the part of me that's the past. It's complicated because here I am, I really feel myself. I don't mind the culture here. I feel like I can speak my mind. If I disagree with the politics, I can speak my mind and all this, but I never feel comfortable talking about the past, and because to me this whole transgender experience feels kind of like a disease that I had, that I overcame, and no one needs to see that or hear about it. But when I went to the city, I found people there who were looking for something very different. They were looking to be comfortable about being transgender, about being gender queer or fluid. There were transmasculine people that I was meeting with who said, you know, I love the mountains and the forest, but I don't like small towns. Like, I can't be queer in a small town. You know, no one will accept that easily, and I don't like having to fight the whole time. And it's like, that's interesting. So they went to the city where they could find a community, a network, a support group where they could be themselves all the time. And that's beautiful. So that's the choice. That's where they ended up going. That's where they found a place of home, of connecting with themselves, was being in these groups where they could really explore their identity and have it be recognized with other people. Sometimes when I go to a really queer community, I feel almost as though they're saying, like, well, you can't be a man because there is no man, actually. It's kind of more of a concept, and we don't recognize, you know, we don't recognize what you're saying you are because it's much more complicated. And then then I feel like I'm like having to chew through a lot of concepts and words, and I'm doing more like chewing than I am being myself. And then out here in the country, I'm being myself, but then at the same time, there's a part of me that's hidden. But I feel more myself. So anyway, this internet experience, this YouTube community and so forth, that's also a place, you know, like we come here to be ourselves, to leave our comments, which are sometimes secrets, which are sometimes things that no one else knows or can't, other people in our lives don't acknowledge, but we're being ourselves and we're writing these things to each other. That's really special. That's a place, and that's a place that has helped me grow, helped me understand, helped me cope with being transgender. And then another place, and this is kind of interesting, and I know from talking to other people this is a similar story, but through love, through loving other people, through you know, sometimes it's family, especially for me it's been like partnerships, like my first feeling of like, oh, someone can see me, someone understands, was, you know, telling the girl that I was with that I was transgender, and there was, you know, this struggle to understand in these long conversations. But once she understood that I was a man, and that was pre-transition, part of me was thinking, do I even need to transition? I mean, this girl sees who I am. What else matters in the world? Like, so that was a place that helped me move forward. But as many of you know, being transgender is this feeling that doesn't go away, and there's so much physical dysphoria that if you do have the hormone transition as an option out there, then it's like, I could be even more myself, and that's why people go down that road, because you can match your outside with how you feel on your inside, which is very very connected way to live. But when you don't have that option, where do you go? Those are the questions that I'm putting out there. Lots of questions about where you are and where you can be yourself, where you have been yourself the most. I look forward to reading these comments. It's almost like you can learn so much about the world through that. Comments, stories, experiences. Thank you.